We are finally back after a couple week hiatus. We are very excited to be back here on Best Available Podcast, episode 47. Myself, Ryan Waldis. I am here, of course, with Matt DeLuca. It's been a couple weeks since we have recorded, and a lot has transpired both in our lives and in the sports world, everything else. We do have to start, Matt, with the long-awaited mini golf match that was between. We were there. We had Zach Asenza there. Glendon Negris was there. And if you would like to see a YouTube video of it, it's up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bestavailableplayer. You can see it if you want to go watch it. It's gotten rave reviews, so definitely go check it out. Unfortunately, I talked a lot of trash leading up to it, and I was not able to back it up, which was unfortunate. Ultimately, Zach won the first match that we did, so that was nobody expected that to happen. Some people thought that he could, play well, but nobody had him as the winner. But he just played. He did what you need to do in mini golf, Matt. You just take the twos where they come, take the threes where they come. Don't have really any bad holes, and that's what Zach did, and that's how he came away with the championship.
Well, yeah, Zach was very vocal coming into this, very critical of his own game. So he was in some ways putting himself down and out of the race before we even showed up to Howell Township, New Jersey. Shout out, we're not going to give anyone free ad space, but a very solid course that we played at. Some questionable hole designs and scoring designs that Glenn was very vocal about. But yeah, Zach, listen, he, UMBC, 1980 Olympic hockey team. I mean, just, do you believe in miracles, as Al Michaels said, or Jim Nance probably said during the UMBC game? I mean, Zach came out of nowhere, quietly, just methodically, surgical with precision. All these adjectives Ryan described how he was on that golf course. The headline was you versus Glenn. Then I became a headline right going into the back nine because I had the lead and then got a 7 on the next hole. But Zach, just came in, did his work, and then left with the trophy that he bought for himself. So you got to love that energy.
Yeah, he envisioned handing that off to one of us, and he just ended up keeping it for himself. Glenn did win. We played another. There were 2 courses here. There were 2 18-hole courses. Glenn won the second match, but the first match was kind of the more important one, and Glenn was in contention, for most of it, but he finished, I think it was only like a shot or 2 behind Zach. It was really close. The last hole really did a lot of guys in just because I think it's really unique. I really kind of enjoyed it. You got to get it up a slope, but you don't want to hit it too much because then it's going to go down another slope. So that really separated the men from the boys, and Zach was able to do what he needed to do on hole 18. And for me personally, I had a great first, I think, 3 holes, maybe 4, and then I just collapsed, and I think I just looked too far ahead. I wasn't just taking it shot by shot. I was kind of trying to get all my shots back on one hole, and you can't do that in mini golf. You got to just focus on the task at hand. But I think that if we were to do this again, I think I'd be more prepared this time around as opposed to the first time. But as I said in the episodes leading up, I was just really happy to be around all the fellas. We had a great time, a little hot outside, but we still had a great time. We went to a nice restaurant afterwards for a few hours, ate some great food, watched some Yankees baseball. They were playing the Angels, so I might not have won, but I really did win because I got to hang out with the boys, which is really what's most important.
Yeah, well, I think the second major tournament of the year will take place in August. I'm going to start trying to get that ball rolling, Ryan. I'm eyeing up Point Pleasant or somewhere along the beach, change up the scenery a little bit as our next destination. I'm mainly just eyeing up somewhere where we could eat after, which I suggested to you guys before. So supporting a local doctor of ours, possibly at his establishment. But in any case, we'll get that going. Glenn did win the second one. He did. We have to give him credit. He did have the only hole-in-one of the day, and it was the play of the day. And it was a turning point in the match because that was signaled your collapse in many ways, Ryan. And you opened up to it in your post-match interview. That was the turning point. So we got to give Glenn some credit. He did have the play of the day.
He did. We saw, I mean, you talked about it months leading up. It's like, Ryan, once Glenn gets out into the course, he's going to do some amazing things, and he did. As soon as he hit that hole in one, I knew all the pressure was on me, and I kind of folded, unfortunately. But I had fun. We all had fun. We all had a good time, and we're definitely going to do it again soon. So that was a good way to spend our time together on that day. That was the first time we were all together on June 28th since it had been 18 months, since January, very early January. It was either the first or second weekend of January 2020 before everything went to shit. And it was nice to see everybody again. Can't wait to see them again in the future, hopefully very soon. We got some other sports to talk about. I don't know how we're going to, follow up our mini golf conversation. That was kind of the most important thing I think that's happened over the past couple of weeks, but we're going to start the little National Hockey League after years, really, of trying to get a team into Seattle. The Kraken are almost ready to be put together. The expansion draft is Wednesday. I think it's on ESPN2 at 8 o'clock or 8:30, which I'm looking forward to. There are, of course, the protection lists were submitted on Saturday, and they became public very quickly afterwards. We had a little flurry of moves before that roster freeze, and there's some good players available. I think a lot of people were surprised at the amount of talent that Vegas was able to compile. I guess it was 4 years ago now, but man, I'm looking through the protection list here on Cap Friendly. They put together really nice. You can kind of draft your own expansion team, which is really cool. There's a lot of talented people here for Seattle to take, especially, they don't have any monetary cap things to worry about, so they have $81.5 million to play around with. They can build a good team right now if they really want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think not just in the NHL, but in pretty much any league outside of maybe the NBA, when you have an expansion draft, I think you could build a really solid roster. We've seen it in, a lot of our sports leagues domestically, and then we've seen it abroad too in some aspects. But I think there's a recent model to follow with Vegas, right? And you mentioned the talent they brought in, and listen, there's a lot of talent there. I hope for their sake they put a good product on the ice, just because Seattle's been this untapped market for a long time, and this could serve as kind of a stepping stone to get the NBA back there. Bring in some other stuff. I mean, I think that's been the missing piece. So hopefully they can go out there and, as you said, put a good product out there with a lot of, cap room to use. But the thing is, do you go young? Do you go with veterans? Because there's a lot of veterans out there with either immovable deals or just guys that are old, right? I mean, for the Bruins aspect, you have Tuukka Rask, David Krejci, both available. Do you go get a veteran? I would be shocked if they didn't get Krejci from our list. But yeah, you got to find a nice balance. Vegas did that, but it's a lot of pressure in some ways because you have a lot to pick from.
I think you definitely want a good mix, right? You need a good mix of veterans and young guys, but from just a team perspective, you need people you can sell to the fan base, right? You want this fan base, this untapped market, to be excited from the very beginning. And some of the name power, the selling power of some of these guys that are available, granted, Seattle's not going to pick a lot of them because, as you said, a lot of these guys are on here because they have a lot of term left on their deals at a really high average annual value, so they're not going to get picked. But they have the opportunity if they wanted. They could get Carey Price in there. They could get Vladimir Tarasenko. They could get a lot of different guys if they really wanted to. And I think it's kind of funny how people said, oh, well, I don't think teams are going to make the same mistakes that they made during the Vegas expansion draft. And I mean, I don't really think it's mistakes, but Seattle's going to put together a really good team, and playing in, I think they're going to be in the Pacific Division. They're going to be competitive right from the start. Like, I truly think, based on the players that are available to them, they will make the playoffs year one, just like Vegas did. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I mean, if you want to assemble the all names team to sell jerseys, I mean, I think like Jonathan Quick's available. Shattenkirk, I think, is available. I mean, if you go based off of name value, you mentioned Carey Price. I think PK Subban's out there. I mean, some of these guys are going to put butts in the seats, right? I mean, I think they're going to do that anyway, but they will be competitive. I mean, it helps when you play against teams like the Oilers, right, who can't seem to figure it out. Right, they're in the Pacific. I don't know NHL divisions anymore. Maybe San Jose, I don't know. But in any case, you're going to be competitive. It's just how it is. It's good to be an expansion team, I guess. But there is a drop off in a lot of other sports from year one to year two. The NHL, Vegas has been able to kind of withstand that, so we'll have to see if they can survive year two. But yeah, I mean, I think we're on pace to have another team like Vegas.
So they are
Which,
going to be.
If that's the case, Ryan, let's just start our own hockey team, the BAP, whatevers, and then we'll get a bunch of these good players too. Just take out a big loan for like $1 billion, right? And then we'll be good to go.
It's interesting you bring that up. There's been some people that have raised the point, which I thought was very interesting. The NHL is an interesting case in that if we look at leagues like the NFL and the NBA, you probably don't want to introduce a lot of expansion teams to them in their current state. But a league like the NHL, where you already have 7 teams in Canada, some people are saying that if the NHL really wanted to expand to 34, 36, 38 teams, they'd probably be able to. I mean, there's a vast talent pool out there. I don't think that would be an issue. And I do think that eventually there's going to be more teams in the NHL. And I think that the NHL is in a position to where they could support those additional expansion teams, unlike, a Major League Baseball, an NFL, or an NBA. They probably couldn't.
Yeah, I think the only team or the only league that could survive that would be Major League Baseball, and that's been talked about on our show, I think, at some points as well. I think the NBA and NFL are right where they need to be. I don't think there's any more you can add, and that's just how it's going to be. But, a lot of these other leagues have some room. I mean, you even look in like the soccer side, you look on, literally any other sport, there's room to grow. Hockey, you have all that overseas talent pool too that I think would jump at the opportunity to come over, right? So you're not just dipping into other teams' rosters like Seattle will, but you could also get some overseas talent too, and I think that's what Vegas did to some extent too. So it'll be interesting. I hope for their sake they play well. They got a nice arena they're playing in, from what I've seen. So always nice to see a new team. And we could call ourselves day one fans if we want, Ryan, if we're just tired of our own teams. But it's always exciting, no matter what sport it is, to see a new team play in a new stadium. So I'll be watching with intrigue.
So they are going to be in the Pacific Division. So in that division, there's actually been a change. Arizona is no longer in the Pacific Division. They're shifting over to the Central to make room for Seattle. So Seattle, they're going to be competing against Anaheim, Calgary, Edmonton, Los Angeles, San Jose, Vancouver, and Vegas. There's, a couple of those teams are, I don't want to say rebuilding, but they're not in a position to contend right now. So Seattle's in a good spot. I think they're in, I could argue, maybe the easiest division in the NHL out of the 4. They are reverting back to the old divisions that were in place before the pandemic. So Seattle's going to be in a good position. They're going to get a lot of great players. The head coach, I thought, was a little bit of a questionable hire. Admittedly, I am biased. I don't know if Hacksaw was the best choice for them as an expansion team, but still they have, Ron Francis, a great guy to have in the front office. The fan base is going to be great. As you said, the arena looks spectacular. I'm excited to see Seattle drop the puck this season. I've been waiting for it for years, and I'm really happy that it's finally happening. I'm really happy that they're going to actually, fingers crossed, be able to have fans there when their season kicks off in October. That's going to be really neat to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically in that same boat for a couple other teams. They're not necessarily new. I mean, you look at Vegas on the NFL side, we're going to get a similar thing this year as well. So probably going to be a great atmosphere. If you go back and watch the old YouTube videos when the Sonics were there, great crowds, great environment. Hopefully we'll see the Sonics again soon. Who knows? But I'm telling you, this will be the stepping stone for Adam Silver to kind of look at and say, hey, maybe we should go back to Seattle because I think the Kraken are going to be really successful.
So that was NHL. The expansion draft, once again, is this Wednesday night. You can see it on ESPN2. The NHL draft itself is on Friday, 2 days later. So it's a busy week for the NHL. The roster freeze is over, I think, on Thursday. I think it ends in the afternoon. So then we can see teams start to adjust their rosters again after the expansion draft. So it's going to be a busy couple weeks here for the NHL. Free agency is kicking off pretty soon. We're going to see, I don't know how many big moves we're going to see with the flat cap, but it still should be an entertaining offseason nonetheless. Moving on to the hardwood, the NBA Finals might be over tomorrow night, Tuesday. It's Game 6. The Suns won the first 2 games. We haven't had a chance to talk about the finals because we haven't recorded in a couple weeks. But, Matt, I think this has been the best finals matchup we've seen at least in a few years. This has just been everything we could have hoped for. People kind of poo-pooed on it a little bit, like, oh, Phoenix and Milwaukee, this isn't going to be very good. This has been highly captivating from the opening tip-off in Game 1. All the games have been really fun to watch. They've been, most of them have been pretty close, and I think what more could we have asked for? This matchup has been incredible.
Well, the people who poo-pooed the matchup clearly haven't watched basketball because when you look at the rosters top down, I mean, you got multiple All-Stars, you got a Hall of Famer in there too, you got probably a future Hall of Famer, you have a really good head coach in Monty Williams, so there's a lot of positives you could take going into it. It's been really, for the games that I've been able to watch, really, really good. This is the Drew Holiday NBA Finals. People, including myself, kind of questioned, was the price worth it to go out and get Drew Holiday? But they went out, they got their guy. They were very vocal about that coming into the year. And we're seeing why. A great two-way player that Team USA is going to desperately need in a couple weeks. That I'm sure we'll talk about. But, yeah, this is the finals of Drew Holiday and how important he is to that team. Giannis is going to get the headlines. Chris Middleton will as well. But Drew Holiday wasn't on that team, Ryan. They would have lost in probably the second round.
I agree. As a Sixers fan, I'm glad that he's finally getting recognition. It seems like he's always kind of been underrated. I think part of that is just the Sixers teams he played on, they weren't very good. And then playing in New Orleans, I think, he kind of under the radar there a little bit, especially because he was playing with Anthony Davis. So, of course, Davis got a lot of the acclaim as he should have. But I agree. It's really cool just to see Drew coming up big here in the NBA Finals. I really didn't have a rooting interest either way. There's players on both teams I wanted to see succeed and wanted to get a ring. Of course, on the Suns, I would love to see Chris Paul get a ring, but I'm excited that Milwaukee, they're successful. I mean, for years we heard the argument that you're never going to win a championship in Milwaukee. I don't know why Giannis would stay there. He needs to go somewhere else. And the circumstances this year are a little different. They didn't have the hardest path to the finals that they could have had, but you still need to play the game, still need to win the games and the series that are in front of you, and they've done that. And even after going down 0-2 in the NBA Finals, they battled back and won 3 in a row. I mean, Mike Budenholzer got a lot of criticism throughout the first 3 rounds, but I think he deserves a lot of praise for what he's been able to do after going down 2-0.
Yes, I'm not the biggest Budenholzer fan. I think that there's some things that he does I don't necessarily agree with, but there's a reason why I'm here, and he makes millions of dollars. But in any case, Giannis, again, I'm not the hugest fan of him either, but I think in terms of like a role model and what the NBA needs, I think he's the perfect guy for it. I'm not a huge fan of sometimes the way he plays, but at the end of the day, it's not a knock on who he is. I think he's a great pillar for what the NBA is moving towards, right? Because we're kind of shifting into this new era of players, right? Bron, CP3, D Wade obviously retired. They're kind of moving on the way out. And you bring in guys like Giannis now who are going to take center stage. And even a guy like Devin Booker too. So Milwaukee, deserves a lot of credit, like you said, for what they've been able to do. I still think Phoenix has a hand in this game or this series. I think they could force a Game 7. You can't count out Chris Paul whenever you have him on your team. I also want to say you got to give a lot of credit to DeAndre Ayton. I got ridiculed, Ryan, on WMCX because I said DeAndre Ayton was worth the number 1 pick and was the best player in that draft. Obviously, he wasn't the best player in that draft because Luka Doncic came in. I also said he was very good and got ridiculed for that. But in any case, I said DeAndre Ayton was very good. A lot of people said he's going to be a bust. It shows what Chris Paul could do to help bring these guys to their next step. And I think Monty Williams deserves a lot of credit for that too. Ayton looks confident. He looks very good defensively, very confident on the offensive side, which I think was the missing piece for a while. So, the Suns aren't going anywhere. I mean, even if Chris Paul leaves in free agency or if he stays and retires in a couple years, the Suns now have the future intact of Booker, who they got, and obviously now with Ayton and some of the other lottery picks they've thrown in there, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. Sorry, Ryan, you could have had him. But you got to give those guys credit too. So had to give Drew a shout out and had to give DeAndre a shout out for the way they're playing.
That year at WMCX, I hammered home the point that I thought that Doncic should have been the number 1 overall pick. And also, I thought that Ayton was going to be a bust. I thought that he was not going to be able to perform very well. And that was clearly very wrong. He has been very, very good. He's just gotten better each year. And I agree. It's been nice to see that kind of group just grow up with CP3 there, providing that veteran leadership. And Monty Williams, one of the best coaches, an even better guy in the NBA. I really wish that the Sixers would have kept him and made him the head coach, but unfortunately, that just did not happen the way that I wanted it to. But I'm glad that he's getting recognition now too. That's really neat to see, and I think it's just cool because now we're seeing these two markets that they're appealing now. I'd like to think. I mean, the success that both these teams have had, the organizations, the things that have been put in place, I'd like to think that now these are going to be appealing destinations for players to want to go to.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the people that you mentioned that really kind of put a cloud on these finals, if you just go and put on the game tape, Ryan, I mean, the atmosphere was pure insanity in Phoenix and Milwaukee as well, with their kind of setup like Toronto had with people outside the arena. Fans are there. Obviously, you don't want to play in Milwaukee in January, but if they can build it into this perennial power, then maybe it becomes a destination. I think Phoenix, obviously should be a favorable destination just in terms of weather and location, but I think it's good for the NBA. A lot of people say, oh, no LeBron, no Steph, like no big market teams. Why do I want to watch? I think it's good for the NBA because now you have more places that you can market, especially on your big marquee days like Christmas Day. Now you could put new teams on there, new players, and then you don't have to reach and put I don't know. And I know the Knicks get on there every year. I understand that, but you don't have to put teams that maybe are going to have sub 500 records on Christmas Day. So benefits everybody, in my opinion. Hurts nobody. So it's a really good finals just overall. Best since 2017 with Bron and KD. So best since then.
Yeah, I mean, 2016 and 2017 were obviously really good, and the finals are always going to be entertaining to watch, but this series is just on another level compared to what we've seen over the past few years. So I'm glad that this was the matchup. Obviously, as a Sixers fan, I wish they were there, but I know this would not be as exciting if the Sixers were there. Like the Bucks and the Suns, it's been a lot of fun to watch. So, as I said, the series could be over tomorrow night on Tuesday. It could go to a Game 7, which I think everybody would love. But either way, definitely make it a point to try to catch some of it on Tuesday if you can. I cannot wait to see what the atmosphere in Milwaukee is going to look like, a chance to clinch the NBA Finals at home. It should be really incredible to see. We're going to stick on the hardwood, but we're going to go internationally to the Olympics and specifically to Team USA. They've been playing some exhibitions out in Vegas. They've played a few different teams, and to the surprise of a lot of different people, they lost twice already. They lost to Nigeria, which was, some people are saying, one of the biggest international basketball upsets ever. And Matt, I think I think this is interesting to talk about because for years we've kind of been, we've kind of learned, not learn's not the right word, but there's a lot of talent coming up, not just in the U.S. anymore when it comes to basketball. This is really a worldwide sport, and I think now especially, I know the roster isn't as good as it's been in the past, but still defeating the United States in basketball is a hefty, that deserves a lot of praise, even if it is just an exhibition.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment that should be celebrated by anyone who can do it. With that being said, I will be fair. The NBA is coming off, these guys are coming off the bubble, obviously, and then a 2-month turnaround, and then a compacted 72-game schedule, plus for a lot of them, the playoffs. The fact that Trae Young isn't on that roster just continues to make my mind spin. If they want to come home with gold medals, he's just sitting there, and he could come in and score a bunch of points. But in any case, it's the roster's not the same. Obviously, injuries, COVID's playing a big factor in it as well. No Bradley Beal. Levine is in protocol now too. Saw that alert a couple hours ago, but apparently he's going to try and join the team a little bit later. But I don't know. If there's any year that they're not going to win the gold medal, it's going to be this year. There's a lot of good teams. As you said, a lot of international talent. Ryan, most people, and we'll talk about the draft over, obviously maybe today or next week as well, people turn off the draft really after the first 10 picks, but especially after the first round. And in that second round are a lot of those good international players that come over and are under-the-radar players. I mean, Jokic, I think, is the best example of it. Just guys that, in theory, will fill out the roster, but end up turning out to be really big, crucial parts. Joe Ingles, another guy, Australian. Australia's a really good team. So it just, in my view, it goes to show that you could literally be the 12th guy on an NBA roster and then be the best player for your country. And that shows that you can't just say, oh, this guy stinks at basketball because he doesn't play. No, they're still the best players in the world. You look at Nigeria, a lot of those guys are in the G League or rookies, and they're a really good team, right? I mean, there's some media personalities that like to just run with, who are these guys and, mispronounce their names and everything, but they're really good. I mean, I watch guys like Gabe Vincent in the G League. He's really solid. He plays for the Heat. Obviously, like Precious Achiuwa, other guys on that team. I mean, the world's catching up. You even look at teams like France, their roster's pretty stacked too. The world's catching up to the United States. Obviously, it'd be a different narrative if, LeBron, Steph, Anthony Davis. Who else am I missing, Ryan? If literally every good player we had was on the team, but the world's still closing the gap.
Yeah, I made the point. The roster for the U.S. this year, for a number of different reasons, it's far from a dream team. There's a lot of players on here that would not have even sniffed an Olympic team in the past, but still, I think I'm excited about the Olympics for that reason. I mean, it was always kind of cool just to see them just stroll in, have no issues, just run right through the bracket and get the gold medal. But I think this year's going to be exciting for a lot of reasons. We've already seen the exhibitions, and I thought you made a good point, too, about how a lot of these media people and just fans in general kind of look at a team like, oh, they have nobody. How could they beat the U.S.? How can they be competitive? But there's a lot of good players on the teams. I mean, you mentioned a couple of guys on Nigeria, even a guy like Amia Oni, a guy that I saw play at Yale. He's part of that team, and these guys are still talented just because they might not have the name value. As you made a great point, there's a reason why they're playing for their country, for their national team, because they're very uber talented. They're among the best in the world. So I'm excited really to see the Olympics this year, probably more than ever before. Of course, I want the U.S. to win, but Australia, for me, personally, is a team that I can get behind because of Matisse Thybulle's presence. And Australia's another country. They could very well walk away with the gold medal in a few weeks. I could see that happening, definitely.
Well, I think Patty Mills is the perfect example, a guy who isn't going to grab the big headlines in San Antonio through all the years, right? He was there for the end of Manu, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, was kind of the role player there. Role kind of increased now with DeMar there, and at one point LaMarcus Aldridge. Patty Mills is one of the best players, not only on Australia, he's their best player in my opinion, but also one of the best in this competition just for what he can bring to that team. And people are going to say, oh, well, why do you say that? Look at all the guys that are on Team USA. Look at Patty Mills did to Team USA, right? I mean, he's very good. Again, it goes to show that the narrative of, oh, I don't know these guys, so they're not good, squashes that narrative. We also got to put some respect on Keldon Johnson's name, a guy who we also saw play live at Kentucky. He's an Olympian. He's a good player. Happy that he got on there. Probably part of it was that his head coach is also the head coach of Team USA, and he was already there, and they needed a guy. But he is good. Congratulations to him. He's going. He played pretty well yesterday. So, we'll see. Do I think that the men are going to come home with the gold medal? I don't know. We got to get my guy Trae Young out there, Ryan. Then I'll say maybe. But we'll see. The Team USA women, Ryan, also had a loss last week on Friday, I think, to Australia. And they also lost to the WNBA All-Star team before that. So both USA basketball teams were going in not as red hot as they usually are because the women are right up there with the men's side, too. They'll run through pretty much everybody because pretty much everyone on that team is a Hall of Famer, just like the men's side. So it's not going to be a traditional USA basketball summer for either side, even though I think if there's any team that's going to figure it out and just run through the competition, it'll be the women, just because of, again, when you have 5 or 6 Hall of Famers on that team just casually going out there, you're going to be in a good chance to win every time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see both of these teams compete at the Olympics. It's, as we keep saying, it's not just going to be they're not going to stroll in there and just not have any issues. It's different this year. They really have to put their foot on the gas and just give it 110% every game they play. They can't underestimate any opponent that they're going to play. So we're going to keep up with that for sure. Olympic basketball, it's going to be a lot of fun. The Olympics themselves are going to talk about. The last time we got to watch the Olympics was a lot of fun, of course. That was, I distinctly recall 2 instances. One was I went over to your apartment at 7 o'clock in the morning to watch the USA hockey team minus any NHL players play. And then there was another time when we went to a classroom at Monmouth at like 11 p.m. and got like a couple pizzas. I'm not going to give anybody free promotion, but we got a couple pizzas delivered. So that was the last time we got to watch the Olympics. So it's nice to have that back again. I'm very excited. Hopefully it goes off well. Hopefully there's not any issues over there in Japan. You bring a lot of people in from all different places. There might be some problems, but fingers crossed there won't be.
Yeah, I mean, there's already issues over there. Just getting everybody there has been an issue, but, being able to see the U.S. women's soccer team will be great as well. That'll be a team, Ryan, if you're looking for someone that's just going to run through everybody. At least we got that, right? So maybe not on the hardwood, but on the pitch, we at least could just see them destroy a bunch of other teams, which will be very entertaining. But the Olympics are always a great time, going to be different. We're going to get another one next year, so that's fun. Hopefully, did the NHL, are they allowing their players to go back to the Olympics, or do I have to watch a bunch of college kids again?
I don't think they confirmed. I hope that they do let them come back just because it makes the product better, but I can understand the reason for not wanting them to go in the middle of the season. I get it's not like the NBA where the season's I mean, this year's a little different, but most years the season's already over. But I think just having the NHL players there, it sounds stupid to say because it's obvious, but it just makes the product better. Seeing the college kids was cool, but I want to see the NHL players again.
No, it wasn't cool, Ryan, because they were going up against grown men from other countries. And Brian Gianto was the only guy that I knew on that team, and maybe I don't even know, was McAvoy on? There was a Bruin who was on that team that made it somewhat entertaining for me to watch. But for a league that is trying to continue to grow, right, and you're expanding, we talked about it earlier, I think it's stupid to not do that. I mean, the WNBA stopped mid-season, right? They're stopping for a month. Their best players are going over there, and it's going to grow the league because you're going to see these great players there doing great things, and you're going to say, oh, well, where can I find, it's like when you see like in an ad or something, or on YouTube, like, where can I find more of this? Here's more of that, and then you just go right to the league. So I think it's stupid to not allow the players to go. Just take a month off. I get the injury aspect of it and the fatigue, but playing for your country is something that I think will trump any regular league format. I bet if you asked any athlete from almost any sport, they would say that.
In terms of the Summer Olympics this year, I do, because I'm looking at a list of events right now that are going to be there. I almost forgot that baseball and softball are making their triumphant returns. I wish they never went away in the first place, but I'm excited to see Olympic baseball and softball. That'll be fun. I'm looking through this list here. I think skateboarding. I'm excited to see how that goes. Are there any events in particular, maybe like not like the main, like basketball or track or stuff like that, things that like some lesser known sports that you're looking forward to?
Only team handball. I think handball is the most intense and great sport in the Olympics. I think volleyball too. And people underestimate the difficulty of beach volleyball. If you say it's easy, go out there and do it. That's incredibly difficult. But indoor volleyball is also very intense as well. And people also underestimate how fast that ball is moving. So volleyball as a whole, but it's one of the more popular ones. But team handball deserves respect, deserves everybody to watch. We played it in gym class. Don't want to brag, but we were pretty good. Maybe we could be Olympians one day at team handball. But yeah, that's one that I will wake up at 4 a.m. to watch if I could.
They're going to have surfing, which is a new Olympic sport. I can't wait to see how that goes. Badminton, that's always I cannot wait to watch some badminton. All this stuff is going to be very exciting to see. It's the Olympics are here. It's a big time for just international sports in general. You mentioned that we have the Summer Olympics this year. We got the Winter Olympics next year. Got the World Cup next year. Got the Women's World Cup the year after. So it's a big time for international sports. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, I forgot we had the World Cup next year. That'll be a conversation topic down the road. But World Cup's always entertaining. Coming off of the Euros that we just had to talk about international competition. CONCACAF's going on right now, Copa America. So lots going on. I'm always a fan of international sports because you get to see the best of the best. It's just prevalent no matter what. Table tennis is another one for me, Ryan, that I will watch. Another sport that people will say, oh, I could do table tennis. And then you go out there and you just get absolutely toasted because you have no idea what's going on. Like it's much more elevated than people will give it credit for. So table tennis I will watch because it's just intense, fast-moving, and fun. And difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So many. I mean, gymnastics is always really cool to watch just because I know, like that's a sport that nobody says they could do because it's impossible. Regular tennis, I'm looking forward to seeing. Water polo, that's a big one. I think when we were on Soundtown, I think water polo came up, right? I forget why it came up, but water polo is a lot of fun. That's another sport that people always say they think they could do, but it's not that it's really not that simple.
Yeah, Monmouth University alum is the voice of water polo, Greg Meskel.
Yeah.
got very familiar with the sport once I started following him on social media. So yeah, if you think you could do an Olympic sport, you probably can't. As someone who does not know how to swim very well, water polo would be very difficult of a task for me unless I could stand in the water. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be rough just from time zone aspects of it, either having to wake up early or stay up really, really late. So that kind of stinks. But, you know, you get the reruns during the day, which are always appreciated. There's a reason why NBC pays, you know, a gazillion dollars to have this broadcast rights package, because they could throw it on every single network that they own, and people like me will watch. So it'll be fun.
So that was a little Olympic talk. That's something else that we're going to be talking about a lot on the podcast over the next few weeks. It's kind of crazy that the Olympics are finally here. I didn't know if they would be able to happen this year, but they're here, and I cannot wait to watch. So that was all that was on the docket, I think, unless, Matt, you have any other things that you want to give some spotlight to this week.
Nothing much. I mean, college athletes could get paid now, which is cool. That happened during our 2-week hiatus. I don't know. We got nice weather this week. That'll be fun. We're trying to get some friends together for a little bash on Saturday, little sports extravaganza. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And yeah, sports. I haven't seen Black Widow yet. I got to see that. Oh, we got to do Disney Plus and Glenn. We got to see Luca.
Yeah, we gotta get back on that. I watched a couple movies recently, not Disney, but I have watched a couple movies. I watched Superbad again because that's always good, and then I watched Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. That's a great one. Not Disney, obviously. There's a lot of Disney movies we have to watch. We have to watch Luca. We were supposed to watch Tangled, and we never got around to it. There's that movie that Russ told us to watch, Sky High, I think. We got to watch that. Have you seen...
Well, Disney also... They're also coming out with a Monsters, Inc. series. I saw that.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I saw they're coming out with a Turner and Hooch with Josh Peck that I think looks kind of funny, so I'm interested in that. I know, you're a big superhero person. Loki... It dominates my Twitter timeline a lot. Have you seen Loki?
Yeah, and spoiler for anyone out there, I'm not going to reveal who they revealed, but the next Thanos just got revealed for Phase 4 and beyond. Ryan got introduced to Thanos as like his second Marvel movie ever. So they introduced a character who, in my opinion, is much stronger and better than Thanos. So... yeah, Loki was really good. I didn't know what to expect. It was definitely worth the watch, though, in the last episode. So, spoiler, they reveal somebody big. If you're a comic book fan, you'll know who that person is, and it'll be a fun surprise for you.
So, yeah, we are going to start watching movies again at some point and talking about them on the podcast. That was something we did in the late fall, early winter, and then we kind of got away from it for a number of reasons, but we will get back to it again soon. That segment also just took a little hiatus, and that's something else to look forward to. So thank you for listening to our comeback episode after a couple of weeks away. We'll be back next time with episode 48. We hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to subscribe, tell all your friends about us, share the link, share wherever you listen to it. It really does help us out a lot. Give us that 5-star review on Apple if you use Apple to listen. And that's about it. So thank you for listening to this episode 47 of Best Available Podcast. We'll be back next time.